17 years ago today, my brother Jeff was murdered. As Richard said, he was on the 106th floor of the North Tower. He was attending a Risk Waters conference. There was once 3 Campbell brothers, and now there's only 2. And I miss him. We all do. This year, I am pleased to be a signatory of the Grand Jury petition and the Bobby McIlvaine Act. Whenever the authorities are involved in murder and its subsequent cover-up, it's only through the determination and perseverance of family members and individuals that truth and justice can have any chance of prevailing, even when the chances of succeeding appear so slim. I'd like to give you an example of what inspires me. Over 46 years ago, in Northern Ireland, 28 civilians who were on a protest march were shot by the British Army. 14 people died, 6 of whom were only 17. The youngest injured was only 15. That day in Derry, Northern Ireland, in 1972, became known as Bloody Sunday. A few months ago, I had a long chat with one of the victim family members of Bloody Sunday. Her name is Julianne Campbell, no relation. She lost her uncle, Jackie Duddy. She was also the press officer for the Bloody Sunday Justice campaign. And she wrote this book called Setting the Truth Free, the inside story of the Bloody Sunday Justice campaign. And I'd like to take this opportunity to mention some of the parallels, because I think they're interesting between 9/11 and Bloody Sunday, some of which I've personally experienced myself. For example, how the media, politicians, successive governments close rank when challenged about official narratives, and how they basically choose to ignore you. Bloody Sunday had the Widgery Tribunal, which was an inquiry led by the Lord Chief Justice Widgery. And this is the highest, at the time, it's the highest legal authority individual in the country. The report he produced largely cleared the soldiers and British authorities and instead blamed the march organisers and claimed that all the victims were either gunmen or bomb throwers. Not a single eyewitness testimony was considered other than that of soldiers. The cover-up began hours after the shootings, beginning with the captain of the regiment compiling a shot list, which was a fraudulent list identifying the victims as either gunmen or nail bombers. The very next day, the Prime Minister, Ted Heath, met with the Lord Chief Justice and reminded him that as well as a military war going on in Northern Ireland, there was a war going on and that he should do his duty. Even when the report was being drafted, someone wrote by hand on a copy that the Lord Chief Justice will pile up the forensic evidence against the deceased. Now remember, this is supposed to be an independent and fair inquiry. So when the Widgery report was published and all the victims were labelled as terrorists, Bloody Sunday became a catalyst for a massive increase in the troubles both in the UK and in mainland UK and Northern Ireland. We're 17 years on now. I take inspiration and hope that for the Bloody Sunday victims, the families didn't really get together in terms of campaigning for truth and justice until 20 years after the event. And they campaigned for a new inquiry, the quashing of the widely discredited Widgery report, and to give the victims their innocence back because they were labelled as terrorists. On the 20th anniversary, a book was published published, this is in 1992, a book was published by a journalist, an activist, and now Irish politician called Eamon McCann. And this, along with the effort of many individuals and campaigns, resulted in Tony Blair, the then Prime Minister, in 1998, announcing a new inquiry. An inquiry that actually led to the former Prime Minister, Ted Heath, taking the witness stand and being examined, and also the captain who compiled that fraudulent shot list, who at the time of the new inquiry was head of the British Army. 12 years later, seems an awful long time, it's nearly 4 decades on, in 2010, the original inquiry was quashed and the victims exonerated. The report's findings were made public, and that the actions of the British Army were ruled unjustifiable and unjustified. And only after the publication were the police, I mean, get this, only after the publication, 40 years on, were the police allowed to investigate the crimes for the very first time. The prosecution services is, as we speak, 46 years on, assessing what legal criminal action can be taken. And as Ted Walter said to Julianne in a recent visit to the Bloody Sunday Museum in Derry, the 9/11 Commission report is our widgery. And I'd just like to finish off with just reading, it's almost the last page of this book. And it's Eamon McCann, the activist, the journalist, the politician, Irish politician, reflecting on the campaign. Nothing mattered as far as the families were concerned, as long as they won their loved ones' innocence. In the process, however, they have become emblematic of the need for people to persist in campaigning for truth and justice. In the end, that might be the legacy of the Bloody Sunday Justice campaign. The extent to which it enables people elsewhere faced with impossible odds to look at the Bloody Sunday campaign and say of their own campaign, let's keep on. This might just fucking work. So let's keep on. Thank you.